Welcome to Zenith to Infinity's first Q&A. We're Second Crossing, and we asked you, our YouTube and webcomic audience, for some questions, and today we have the answers. I'm not sure what we expected, but we got a lot of questions. So many that we're actually going to have to make a part 2 and 3 to answer them all. But don't worry, for everyone who's asked, we've answered at least one of your questions. Of course, if you have any more questions, ask them in the comments below. But for now, let's get started. Between the two of you, how do you manage your roles for Zenith to Infinity? Are there certain parts you each play? If you've been watching our channel, you'll know that we've been doing a 365-day challenge and create a webcomic together. For our daily challenge, we keep it pretty simple and just alternate every day. For Zenith to Infinity, it's a bit more complicated. Usually comic duos are a writer and an artist, but in our case, we actually share both roles, just the tasks within each role are split. So here are some of the things that I do. I deal with script sectioning, storyboarding, text layout, character and general object line art, like weapons, things characters hold like mugs or food, or anything else a character interacts with, and of course, sound effects. And as for some of the things that I do, my job is coloring, background work, figuring out how a world looks, like world concept art, and logo designs. And as for the things that we share, those include story writing, editing, character design, and color palettes for major characters like our main cast, gods, side characters, and so on. And of course, tech design. What is your canvas size for your webcomics? Whenever I start a new episode, I use Clip Studio Paint's default preset Webtoon number 4, which is 1600 pixels by 10,000 pixels at 350 dpi. And that's pretty much it. Nothing fancy. Bread or key? Once upon a time, in the land of bread, the kingdom was unable to open a door to a room that was locked for many, many years. One day, a wandering key showed up at their kingdom's doorstep, looking for a home. In exchange for a place to stay, the key unlocked the door and freed the dormant yeast inside. The Bread King and Queen revived the yeast and gave their new hero, the Wandering Key, a big hug. To celebrate their noble deed, the key partied with the many loaves of the kingdom, but little did they know that the key was rusted inside. Rust spread to the bread loaves like a plague, and one by one they all died. The fresh yeast was also not spared and died from hunger. And thus, through tears, the key was forced to wander again. The end. Bread or key? Okay, so we've all seen the meme, right? And if you haven't seen the meme before, it's okay, I hadn't seen it until 2 weeks ago, so here it is. Alright, bread or key? Honestly, I debated it for a while, so I did what any reasonable person would do. I made a chart of pros and cons. Okay, so this is you, and you're in jail, and on top of that, you're starving. The fact that this is even a debate means we have to assume that we have no energy left in the tank. 0. You're running on fumes. Okay, so first up, let's say you choose bread. You choose the bread and yay, food! You gain your energy back and you're good to go, right? But too bad, you're stuck behind bars forever. And eventually you get hungry again. They fed you a tiny little baguette, which honestly would only let you survive for another day or 2 tops. And there's no guarantee you'll even get food again. Especially since they already left you in a state where you had to either choose between food or freeing yourself from jail. And so as you contemplate your final meal was really just a roll of bread left on the floor by some cruel jailer, you sadly pass away. Not great. Okay, so maybe the bread path wasn't the right one after all. So now you choose the key. And now that you have the key, yay, you have freedom. You free yourself from the jail cell and you're good to go, right? But too bad. Without any food, you have no energy. You're still running low on fumes. And without any energy, you collapse onto the floor just outside of your jail cell, unable to escape the prison, and of course, you still pass away. So do both roads really lead to the same place? You just don't make it out alive every time? And as I was thinking about the answer for this question, all I could think of was, man, this whole thing is a trap. The cruelty of the implied jailer who just keeps the items just out of reach so you have to overextend yourself to just get one of the items with a stick? That's horrifying. The bread and the key is a trap for sure, but I think the real trap they're distracting you from is honestly the sadistic jailer and the prison cell keeping you inside. And then all I could think of is just, wait, if this is us, is this a meme or a critique of hyper-capitalism? As an artist who struggles with art block, how do you get over that? Art block can be really tough. It can be hard to be creative when nothing seems to inspire you or if you have no direction. And when you're told you can draw anything, it seems really freeing with endless possibilities, but sometimes being aimless can actually make it even more difficult to choose what to draw. So, here's some tips that we use to get rid of our own art block. For our first tip, prepare prompts. For our 365-day challenge, preparation is key. It's hard to draw daily, especially if you have to come up with a topic on the fly, so we make sure we have a bunch of prompts pre-approved that we write down so we can use them. They're usually chosen about 2 weeks in advance, so we can always change them out if we need to, or if we aren't inspired by the prompt on that day, we can change them out too. Prompts can work even if you're not doing a challenge. For fan artists or other artists in general, you can try joining a themed prompt week or month like Inktober, or a community fandom event. For our next tip, move on to other tasks. For example, our webcomic is a lot of work, so there's always something to be done if we hit a roadblock. If you're having trouble drawing something, maybe try script writing or world building, character designing, or coming up with scenarios to put your characters in. You can always circle back to your original task when you're ready. This might not really apply if you're not making a webcomic, but you can always try working on something else before coming back to your original piece. Lastly, maybe you're not doing a challenge or webcomic, but you just want to deal with art block in general. So here's our final tip. Touch grass. But more specifically, go outside and be curious. Maybe your life isn't that interesting, but if you go on a walk or eat at a restaurant outside, maybe something interesting will happen to the people around you. When that happens, write it down. Soon enough, you'll have a collection of interesting things that have happened around you that you can pick up and use at any time. Art block happens when we're not inspired, but having these notes when you are inspired in your back pocket could be the push you need when you need it most. What is your drawing process? This question was asked alongside our writing process, but we've put the writing section into part 2 of our Q&A coming soon. Sorry, this video would be way too long if we put it in, but you can look forward to the next one. This will just be a brief overview, but if you want a full video of our process, let us know. As we showed off before, my role mainly involves the beginning of our drawing process. But before any drawing begins, everything starts with content management. I won't dive into the actual content editing since that will be in the second part of our Q&A, but basically I take the script and figure out how much stuff will be in each episode. We want to make sure that there's enough stuff that makes it worth reading, but not too much that we can release our chapters on time. Once that is decided, next comes the storyboard. I draw everything out based on the script we just sectioned off, but I do try to limit the amount of panels per episode. It makes it so that Jay has enough time to finish the episode before release. We used to have much longer episodes, but shortening it has allowed us to increase the quality of our work, but also do new things like our YouTube channel. Once Jay approves of the storyboard, I place the panels and text, draw the line art, fix any changes, do the sound effects, and it's done. Then I send everything to Jay. Once I receive the line art from S, I get coloring. Since I'm the colorist, a lot of our color palettes are already decided, but where things change would be different environments and how that affects the lighting of the scene and characters. So far, the scenes have been mostly set in daytime, so there hasn't been too many big changes, but large exceptions would be episodes with rain or settings like Ray's basement. I also do most of the concept art of the worlds themselves, which include Central, Nestella, and Novarita. The basement was actually really challenging because S was the designer, and because it was such an important location, so getting it right was pretty difficult to pull off on a bi-weekly basis. And in general, new locations are tough. Having to make visually distinct areas while also trying to make them look good for vertical scroll is a huge challenge. We're both used to reading manga, which have large double-page spreads, but vertical scroll doesn't always lend itself to being very good at establishing shots. And as S mentioned, since we've reduced our panel count, I feel like I'm able to spend more time on backgrounds and environments to make the panels better and higher quality. And that's pretty much it. What is your favorite character in fiction? My answer is pretty simple, Zoro from One Piece. And honestly, it hasn't changed in many years, but as long as a character is cool, I'll probably like them. My longtime favorite is Ace, also from One Piece, and I have a lot of characters I actually really like from a lot of different series, like Rohan from JoJo, and a bunch from Type Moon, so it's pretty hard for me to pick a definitive number one, cause honestly, I'm just too indecisive. And that's it for our first Q&A. We hope that you've enjoyed it. If you have any other questions for us, let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. Also, don't forget to check out our daily 365-day challenge here on YouTube and our webcomic Zenith to Infinity that releases bi-weekly on Saturdays at 5 PM EST on Webtoon, Namikami, and Global Comics. We'll see you next time for part 2 of our Q&A. Bye!